Okay, we're going to call the Planning and Zoning Board meeting for July 10th, 2024. It is at 7 o'clock p.m. The Planning Board serves as an advisory board to the Commission, and any decisions that they make tonight are forwarded to the Commission for their consideration. Items heard on this date will be heard by the City Commission on August 5th, 2024. We have a roll call, please?
Ali Shaw. Here. Miguel Hicks. Here. Heather Norton.
Here.
Susan Case.
Here.
Colin Young.
Present.
Christina Novus.
Here.
Caroline Allison.
Here.
Samuel Landis.
Here.
We have minute meetings that need to be approved from May 8th, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve, or anybody have corrections?
I'll make a motion to approve the planning and zoning minutes from May 8th, 2024.
A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes. Okay. This is a quasi-judicial meeting. Recommendations shall be based on competent, substantial evidence presented at the hearing. Comments will be considered as they relate to the merits of the case for items that will be quasi-judicial items before the City Commission. Unsubstantiated testimony and popular sentiment cannot be considered as the basis for recommendations for items that will be quasi-judicial items before the City Commission. Okay. Do we have a presentation?
Good evening, Carol Strickland, Interim Community Development Director. This case is a major modification to the approved site plan for the Safety Harbor Spa. It's case number 2023-15 SD. This has undergone review by the Technical Review Committee, reviewed this evening by the Planning and Zoning Board, and scheduled for public hearing on August 5th, as noted by the Chair. There was a error on the staff report that listed a different date. However, the public notice listed the correct date, and the staff report's been corrected online, but the date is August 5th. So the applicant is Adelphia 4 LLC. The total area encompassed by the approved site plan is 15.4 acres, and that is the Safety Harbor Spa. The modification area is 0.8 acres, and that property is currently vacant. So what is proposed is a parking lot, a stormwater pond, and a new driveway access to Veterans Memorial Lane, which would be the principal access for the parking lot. And just a little bit of background, here's the location map. You can see the parcel indicated in red there. The larger parcel is the spa, and there's Veterans Memorial Lane, and then the waterfront park and marina across the lane. This is the aerial, again, depicting the subject property, the surrounding park, and the spa, and you can see the vacant condition of the property. This property is in the Community Redevelopment District, so it has a future land use of CRD. And within the Downtown Master Plan, the character district is Destination Resort, which is applied to the entire spa property. And I just wanted to take a minute and explain what that Destination Resort character district is for. It is specifically to recognize the historic use of the spa property and to preserve its historic function as a spa, and then also to allow complementary uses that will develop and continue its role in the economy of Safety Harbor. There is a wide variety of uses that are allowed in Destination Resort. The one that's pertinent here is the fact that it's a hotel, motel, and resort is the primary use on the property, and that is a permitted use. So the parking lot is not considered a primary use. This parking lot is accessory parking for the spa. So it is a permitted use as part of that hotel use. This is parking for the spa. It is not proposed as public parking. It's an expansion of their existing parking facilities that serve the spa. They're proposing a total of 63 spaces, 3 handicapped and 6 low-speed vehicles. One thing to note that the spa, in terms of the land development code requirements, would require 308 spaces. They have around 345 currently, and then they would be looking to go to 405 with this addition. The other components of the proposed parking lot are a retention pond, and then, as I mentioned, the new access to Veterans Memorial Lane. And I'd just like to go over some photographs. I know we're all very familiar with the spa, but I wanted to orient you to how the parking lot would be laid out relative to the marina and the existing spa property. So essentially, this is the wide sidewalk that leads along Veterans Memorial Lane. The boat ramp is to the right, and you can kind of see the kayak rental there. This is the approximate location of the new driveway. This is a different view where you see the crosswalk and the driveway, the wide sidewalk, and we're looking north here, and again, where that black vehicle and trailer there are parked is the approximate location of that new driveway. Again, just another view. This is looking from the sidewalk east, and you can see the spa property in the background, but I think this illustrates the character of the current state of the property. It is primarily a grassed area. It is not heavily treed. The majority of the trees are these palms that you see, the sable palms, and there are several slash pines as well, but it's largely a vacant open space. This is another view. This is standing on the waterfront park. You can see the fence that divides the city's property from the spa property, and again, you can see the open area as well as the spa in the background. One thing I wanted to note here is there is a wall that's on the eastern boundary of the property, and that is incorporated into the site design and landscaping design. Just a couple of more views looking south and east towards the marina, just to kind of give you a flavor for how that property looks. And this one I took just to show you the location of the retention pond. It is on that southeast corner. Again, this is Veterans Memorial Lane. The wall that I mentioned earlier, it's in this general area that the pond would be located. One thing I also wanted to point out, there isn't an existing internal drive on this property that's just east of the proposed parking lot. It does traverse the entire existing Safety Harbor Spa property, but I wanted to show that because there is a proposed connection from the new parking lot to this kind of single lane driveway that's existing. So this is the site plan. And again, to orient you, Veterans Memorial Lane, the spa property to the east, and then the wide sidewalk and the waterfront park. This is that internal lane that I mentioned that runs through the spa property. There's an existing retention pond, and then this is the proposed retention pond with that retaining wall in that approximate location. The proposed access to Veterans Memorial Lane is at the very southwestern corner. It would cross the wide sidewalk, and you can see some of the pavement markings that are proposed. One thing I did want to point out, which you'll see as a condition of approval is there's actually a city-owned parcel, kind of a very small out parcel in that general location. The applicant is proposing to use that out parcel to cross it with that driveway. And you'll see in the conditions that a right-of-way permit and an easement from the city commission would be required to approve that driveway. So again, it is public parking. The primary access is to Veterans Memorial Lane. It's my understanding they're not proposing public access to the internal driveway. I'll let the applicant speak a little bit more to that matter. This is the tree table. I do have our arborist, James Ryan, here this evening to answer any detailed questions you may have about the tree removal. But yeah, as I mentioned, the majority of the trees being removed are those sable palms and several slash pines. And the replacement trees are based upon the removal of those protected trees. There'll be 42 replacement trees. And then as a result of the required parking lot and screening, they're proposing 25 additional trees. So the total number of trees is 67. With the landscaping layout, the majority of them are on the parking lot site, but they are also going in and planting 22 of those in other areas of the spa property. Essentially, the trade-off, though, is the species that they've selected for the replanting are shade tree varieties, which are replacing the sable palms, which are obviously not shade trees. So this is the landscape plan indicating the location of the replacement trees. Some of the off-site plantings of those 22 additional trees, and then the parking lot and screening requirements. And again, James Ryan is here if you want to have any specific questions about the landscaping requirements. Staff is recommending approval with conditions. These are the draft conditions of approval. They address the replacement trees. The requirement for a right-of-way permit, requirement for conforming with the comments that are in your packet from Public Works and Engineering. As I mentioned, a cross-access easement will be required. That is a decision of the City Commission that will be made separately from this site plan approval. Excuse me. And then prior to construction approval, these are kind of standard conditions, but showing us the SWIFT environmental resource permit. At the time the proposed driveway, if the easement is approved, it goes forward, we're asking for a little bit additional detail in terms of signage and markings where that driveway crosses the wide pedestrian path along Veterans Memorial Lane. And then some other technical, some other technical conditions related to wet weather plan and some conflicts with electrical conduits. The standards for site plan review are that the site plan must meet all applicable provisions of the code, must be consistent with the comprehensive plan, city's concurrency management system, in all applicable building codes. So in terms of a recommended motion, staff is recommending approval. The Planning and Zoning Board can approve with conditions, or modify the recommended conditions, or deny the major modification to the site plan. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a first question. Is this taking away one of the boat parking spots?
Let me go back to the picture.
Yeah.
Trailers, yeah.
Yes. So you can see, if you bear with me just 1 minute.
That would be taken away where the green
Yeah,
truck is?
essentially, it's just to the west of this crosswalk, so it would kind of be in this general area, so there would be a loss of one of the boat parking spaces.
Is the city proposing to put another spot elsewhere for boat and trailer parking, since it is the only marina in the city?
The Leisure Services Department is aware of this plan and the loss of this space. I don't know that they've looked at specific plans to replace that, but they're certainly aware of the loss of that space, and that would be, something that the city commission would be aware of as well.
Okay, and then is this going to be a gated parking lot, like the valet parking lot, or guests are able to park themselves?
The site plan does not indicate a gate. The applicant's representative is here, and I'll let them address the, how to manage that
Okay.
issue.
I've got a question. Ms. Strickland, does the city have a plan to negotiate or to handle the foot traffic going through there? Because the city currently uses that area for major events. There's already a boat ramp there, there's a pier there, and there's public parking there. And then we're adding the influx of up to 62 cars and egress. So when the city has events and they shut down that corridor, how is the applicant's guest supposed to leave that area? And is the city prepared to create, I don't know, a special lane of travel for their guests to get in and out?
That is something that we've discussed internally as well as with the applicant. There is language in our staff report that advises the applicant that there are times when Veterans Memorial Lane will be closed in its entirety and that they will not have access to that curb cut. 4th of July being a good example. But also some of the races. There are other events that close south of the boat ramp. It would not interfere with the use of the parking lot. But essentially, the applicant is advised that that may be a conflict and that they should, we actually gave them some recommendations in terms of closing the parking lot for a period during those events or managing the use of that parking lot when those closures will be made. Historically, we've cooperated very closely with the spa for things like 4th of July and tried to work around impacts on their property, and we would expect that that relationship would continue.
And secondarily, while I understand that the parking structure and the need for the parking structure, but the question in my mind is why hasn't there been any discussion about this being in a more appropriate place, like in the existing parking structures that are out front of the hotel? And why is that not an option?
I will let the applicant discuss why that is or is not an option. I guess from the point of view of the Land Development Code, this is an allowable use in this location. The parking is an allowable use in this location. Really the decision that is for the City Commission to make is the access across the city's property and that easement. But this is an allowable use. It supports the spa, and that is our finding in that
Okay.
case.
Carol, I forgot to just ask you a quick question. Have the proper notifications been met?
Yes, the
Consent, okay.
property was posted and notices were sent.
Okay, thank you.
Going back to special events, I'm trying to recall, so with the races, I seem to recall they usually shut down Philippe at Martin Luther King there. So the road in front of the spa is still accessible during those events, right? But the entirety of Philippe down through South Bayshore is often not.
Well, there is an approved route, as I noted in the staff report, that approved 5K route. I think there are times when both Bayshore and Philippi are closed for the longer routes.
Right, but is the road in front of the spa, I forget the name of it now, but are they still able to get in and out vehicles there north of those closures?
I'm not familiar with the exact road closures.
Okay.
I'd like to make a suggestion that we let the applicant do
Okay.
their presentation, and you may have a lot of questions answered
I will.
as they do their presentation. Thank you,
Very
Carol.
good.
Okay. Do we have to swear people in? Okay, all right. Okay, could you give us your name and address, please?
It sounds like no.
No, I guess not at this point.
Jim DeGrosse with Olympia Development Group.
Okay.
Address 101 Second Avenue North, Safety Harbor.
Great. And anybody else who's speaking, please?
Howard Slomka, also with Olympia Development Group at 100 Main Street.
Okay.
And Bill Loomis, President, ownership of the Safety Harbor Resort and Spa.
Very good. Thank you. And who is making the presentation?
Whatever, you want to repeat the question?
Who's making the presentation?
All of us.
There's no presentation.
No presentation?
Just here to answer questions. I thought there was.
Okay.
James DeGrosse, please. Go ahead.
I'm trying to answer questions.
Okay. Can you state the justification for this major site
Sorry,
modification?
I'm hard of hearing, so I can't hear you.
Could you state your justification for this major site modification?
Justification for the parking lot? That's right. That's what I'm asking.
For the support of the Tiki Bar and Grill we have there. That is primary reason for that.
Okay.
Any other question?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Are these tiki bars in the restaurant, are they open to the public?
Yes,
Will the resort allow patrons to those two locations?
to some degree, yes.
Will they allow them to park in the parking
With
lot?
some restrictions.
What
Yes,
restrictions?
if you are going to come and to the Tiki Bar, or you have a nice hamburger there, yes, you are allowed to park.
Okay,
You are the public,
okay.
yes.
Can you tell us what you anticipate for traffic in and out of that parking area?
Not very much. During the day, not very much at all. In the evenings, from 5 to 7 or 8 o'clock, there may be, but it's not the kind of traffic that creates a problem on veterans.
Were any other locations considered for the parking?
That is the location. It was always intended, planned from about 20 years ago.
Okay. So it seems to me that, in light of one of the items of the comprehensive plan is, what have we got? So, I mean, one of the infrastructure recommendations in the plan is to restrict the increase of impervious surface area. I mean, this is definitely doing that, putting a parking lot in. So, when there's already existing parking lots that a structure could be put in with a second layer on top of that.
Where?
Out in front of the spa. There's also a junkyard to the north
These
of
are
the spa.
future plans, sir.
Okay. The other concern I have is
Yes.
that one of the recommendations, one of the things listed in the destination resort is a waterfront destination, and here we are slapping a parking lot in front of the hotel. Like, that's, to me, isn't a waterfront destination. I mean,
It is because 90% of the frontage behind there is green.
yeah, those are my major concerns with this. So,
I got a question.
Go ahead.
So you mentioned, sir, that the front area, the front parking lot area,
Yes.
that is an alternate site for this structure? Okay, so why, hold on just a second.
Let me
Why,
complete this. I said that specifically, the parking specifically for the Tiki Bar and Tiki Grill. Well, the problem we have right now is that people have to walk across Bayshore through the property, the buildings, and then, of course, that creates a problem, an internal problem of us. We want the parking to be within the proximity of what they're going to be going to, and that is the disc bar and grill.
Okay.
Are you finished? Okay. I have concerns about the land itself and the fact that it's in a flood zone and a high coastal land area. The retention pond itself is for a 25-year frequency storm on a 24-hour basis. And what we've had recently in the Tampa Bay area is storms that are much more intense. We had in 2017 Hurricane Irma, we had 2012, we had Tropical Storm Debbie, 2016 we had Tropical Storm Hermine. We've had, just recently, Tampa itself had 8 inches of rain in 3 hours. And according to NOAA, sea levels are projected to rise a foot within the next 30 years. So I'm very concerned about doing anything in our waterfront property that it's simply going to be affected by floods. I don't see how this retention pond is going to keep us above water. So I'm very concerned about that. And my second concern is basically the waterfront park and Veterans Memorial Lane are designed for recreational use. We have a marina, we have a pier, we have a walking trail and everything. And can I just finish my
Which you
thought?
walk on our property. No.
Wait. We need to have access on a sidewalk that's safe for the pedestrians and the residents of the
Yes,
city.
indeed.
And I'm concerned about safety of our residents. I'm concerned about what the impact's going to be on our recreational activities down there, in addition to the high water. And no one's addressed that. I'm very concerned about that.
I don't think you expressed what is the concern, the parking being there. Now, the first I will answer that.
Go ahead.
Why would you be concerned? Why?
Because you're
If the property is underwater, everything is going to be underwater, including the park. And we have seen that in the past.
right, but when you present a plan to the city, okay?
Yes.
And you're saying that a retention pond is adequate with a 25-year frequency storm, it doesn't appear that that's the case. But maybe somebody in your group can address that. I'm concerned about that.
Under the standards, these are the standards for presentation for retention. They have been presented. That retention pond is adequate for exactly that. It's not for 500 years,
It's
for
adequate,
100 years.
adequate for displacing the water that would be on the parking location. That's what it's for, not for flooding.
And Madam Chair, I would like to note that the city engineer is also here and available for questions.
I have
Go ahead.
I have another follow-up question. Sir, what is your plan to to deal with the traffic and shutdowns that will happen during city events? Because that is a dead-end area with limited mobility, room to move around in, and you're potentially trapping your own clients in your own parking structure. Because if the city has an event, do you plan to hire Pinellas County sheriffs to go out there and direct traffic and create traffic lanes, or is that going to be left to the city?
Oh, no. Weeks ago, we had a meeting with the temporary planning and zoning director and the temporary manager. And that issue or that question was raised to us. I have agreed to a 4th of July where that will be closed. I don't know if you have any notes of that meeting, do you? Did we discuss that?
And what,
That I said I would have no problem agreeing. Now, The question is, for those people who are going to be in, because the 4th of July doesn't happen until 5 or thereabouts, I would say, or I believe that's when it takes place. Then we have 2 alternate routes from the parking, which are internal, an access or exit to the south from the existing loading dock, and the second is for the far north through the parking of the city to the north. So we have no problems with that. Nobody's going to be trapped. And at any rate, anybody who has witnessed the exodus out of that, nobody can move. So patience will pay off.
Madam Chair, may I comment on the conversation that we had and the information that's in the staff report? The city does have periodic full closures of Veterans Memorial Lane in addition to the 4th of July. We mentioned the race and others. So the city is not committing to restrict the road closures to 4th of July only. The schedule of special events that have those road closures is at the pleasure of the city commission. They approve those events. So as part of the site plan approval, it's not within staff's purview or the planning and zoning board's purview to limit road closures. That's up to the city commission. And at this point, the city commission, with their ability to approve those special events, there's at least a half a dozen a year, and depending on what year, where the full Veterans Memorial Lane will be closed. And what we did agree to was certainly to work with the SPA on the timing of those closures and management of the impacts of those closures. But I just wanted to make it clear that it's not just the 4th of July where that circumstance may exist.
If I may, no other specific dates were mentioned to me at that meeting. Isn't that correct?
The dates that were mentioned by you. When I put the staff report together, it's very clear in the staff report that there are periodic partial and complete closures. So that is the city's position, that there are potentially other dates in addition to the 4th of July. The 4th of July was, you're right, the one we specifically discussed, but the city is not, as part of this site plan, committing to limit closures to a single date.
Well, we will have to have advance notice of these closures.
Yes. Absolutely, and that is the recommendations that are in here to work with the SPA to for working around closure dates and so on.
Sir, isn't it easy enough to just close the parking lot in the morning of the date that that the road's going to be closed, so nobody gets trapped?
I think a bar on the 4th of July makes a lot of money.
Not the bar, the parking lot.
Why would you do that? That's why we are building a parking lot.
If the road's going to be closed?
Why would it close?
Well, it does close.
At 8 or 9 or 12, why would you close it at 12?
Well, no. Here's my point. This is very easy for you, right? The city's going to close that road sometimes, and the board's concerned that the patrons of the tiki bar are going to be stuck because they can't take the road out. Isn't it easy enough for you in the SPA to just close the parking lot so that nobody's in there just on those days?
We love to have the parks. That's what this is alive.
Right.
I already explained that we have 2 routes of exiting. So I don't have any problem, do you?
Yes, if the road is closed.
No.
Maybe the people who park there should know that the road's gonna be closed. If they don't wanna be stuck, they don't need to park there. I mean, that's like an easy solution. And a lot of people
Yes,
live
of
close
course.
to Safety Harbor that go to that tiki bar. So if their car's stuck, they could always walk home. Like, there's options, I think,
Yeah,
that could
I guess
work.
what I'm getting at is it doesn't sound like it's likely to be a big problem. Do you think that's right?
No.
Yeah, Howard
not-
Funk, on behalf of the applicant, and I think that's right. This parking lot is primarily for short-term use.
Yeah.
Right, this is for people coming for a wedding event that might be held behind the resort, rather than have them park over here and cross the street and walk through. Now they'll be close to it. People, spa members and guests coming to the pool and to the tiki bar will now be closer. They don't stay overnight there.
Yeah.
These are, and this doesn't impact the valet. And it's worth noting to the board that these 63 spaces are something that we heard the public wanted. We lost our overflow parking, which was muddy and grass and wasn't great use, and we're replacing it with more spaces that are paved. Yes, they're impervious, but they're and I can deal with the environmental concerns as well. But if these are short term, and what Mr. Talumis was saying, and I think is accurate, is on these very few occasions when that road will be closed, we have an alternate road. And we'll use it. Now, we don't want people driving through the resort. That wouldn't be safe for the guests or even the people using the city areas. But on those couple of hours when it's closed, absolutely, we can use a second means of egress. And that brings me to the easement. This is with a conditional improvement that in order an approval with conditions, in order to get in and out of these 63 spaces, we have to cross over an easement. So all of your concerns you're talking about will be dealt with in that access for both vehicular and pedestrian easement and cross-access. So there will be a recorded document that addresses that. I hope that's helpful.
I got a question here, because you said that these spaces are intended for the public use. Do you mean anyone can park there, or just hotel people are going to the tiki bar?
We're not planning on having an access gate.
So the public at large can park there?
If they plan to
The public is invited into the tiki bar, of course, but just like any.
No, you're splitting hairs where there
Yes.
doesn't need to be a split. I'm asking, will the public have access to this parking lot, or will it be restricted to only patrons of the hotel?
We anticipate signage restricting it to patrons of the hotel, but not just guests. Public patrons as well, just like a restaurant would say, parking for McDonald's customers only.
It's a regular private parking lot.
Of course,
Yeah.
right.
Around Safety Harbor, they have it for daydreamers, they have it for
Of
all
course.
the restaurants, like, you must be a patron to park
Right.
there.
And we do know our internal demographics show that people who use the marina, people who go to the pier, also eat at the tiki bar. It's the closest restaurant. So we anticipate those people now having 63 additional spaces to park in. The on-site retention is, of course, approved by the city engineer, who I think is here, but that, I think Ms. Allison spoke to that, or Ms. Novitz. That's designed for rain and for significant rain events, not for tidal events. Because of the low elevation of this, a tidal event, once the tide goes out, the water goes out as well here. So that's sort of a different concern. This parking lot will neither help nor hinder a hurricane or a tidal event, but the.
It's to displace, it's to hold the water that would otherwise have been able to percolate into the
Right,
ground.
and it won't be sheet flowing across Veterans. It will
Correct.
it will be held and return to the bay in the same with the same velocity that it would have gone there prior to installing these 63 spaces.
It won't be carrying pollution and debris with it because it's
Of
settled
course.
in the pond.
Of course, not, and neither during construction nor during use. And then the last thing I wanted to address, Mr. Hicks had asked about the closures, and of course, the spa was having events on these various days before the city even thought of those events. We've always thought of ourselves as a partner to the city, not an opponent to the city. These days, which are now celebrated by the city residents and by the city itself, are embraced by the spa. We don't, and I think this parking lot will only help with that.
I do have a question about the materials for it. Is there any thought being given to mitigating contribution to the urban heat island effect? That's my major concern with another piece of paving in town is we don't need more asphalt that's just heating up all day and heating up the local environment.
We looked into that, and I believe with regard to the geotechnical and the soils on site, it really has to be a paved parking lot. A paved parking lot costs a lot of money. This is nothing that the Safety Harbor Resort and Spa is dying to do. You know, hey, we're not going to charge people to park there, and it costs a lot more money to pave a parking lot than it would be to use any of the semi-permeable resources. But with the soils being what they are, this is the only way to get those 63 spaces, which is something, again, that we heard the city loud and clear, and the public saying we need more spaces. So.
Can you expand on what you were starting on the easement, that you think that some part of the easement process is going to relieve some of the concerns about, I think you started on foot traffic or something else like that. What do you mean by that?
Well, the board's concerns about closures and who can use it will have to be addressed in the vehicular and pedestrian easement, which will be part of the closing permit. So that'll be addressed between myself and the council for the city. We've done that on many occasions in the past, and any such conditions would be in there.
So your point is that to satisfy the commission in order to get the easement, you're going to have to explain to them what the plan is?
Well, it'll be in the easement, yeah. The full council would vote on that easement,
Yeah.
and they'll have the same concerns you're having, but they'll be addressed in the easement.
Yeah. Okay.
But again, that secondary means of access is critical to the parking lot. I think it'd be a tougher sell if we didn't have that, but since we do have that secondary means of access, we believe it functions very, very well even during those closed periods.
I have a question regarding the impervious surface ratio. It's saying the new ratio would be 0.588. What is the max requirement for this zoning?
Let me look that up for
Okay.
you.
I have a question. There's already two entryways, correct, out of the spa where the parking lot would connect to, one on the east and one on the west side. Is that my understanding?
That's right.
Has there been thought to use that instead of using the city's easement and taking away one of the public parking spots already at the Veterans Memorial Drive?
That the easternmost is an active loading zone. There are always trucks there. That's where the trash comes in and out, the food comes in and out. It would not be safe if that were so. And I believe we are losing. There are either 8 or 9 spaces long enough for trucks and trailers there. We'd be losing about half of one of them. So I think with some creative striping, it could be that we don't lose any of them. Yeah, I mean, maximum of 1 space.
Right.
But because it's one of the end spaces, I suspect because people go there with trailers with not jet skis, but with wave runners, smaller trailers. I'm not an expert on the length of trailer spaces, but I believe that we possibly could restripe that and not lose a single space if one of those is restricted to recreational wave runner trailers and things like that.
And then the other entry that to the side?
Overflow.
Okay.
Yeah. The other entry is the one that's already there, the easternmost entry. Yeah. And we worked with the city on that design.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
No,
All right,
thank you.
Thank you. We're going to now ask for public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this?
We're not in favor.
Well, that's the next question. I guess that's no. Are there any people that would like to speak against this? Are there any comments, period? No? Okay. We'll bring it back to the board for discussion. Okay.
Well, I personally, I think it's the right idea, just the wrong place in my mind. There's a lot on that Veterans Parkway or that Veterans Road right there. And it seems like it's adding a lot of traffic to an already impacted area. Whereas there's that space in the front where there's already current parking. They could add a parking structure there, whether it's a second level, you don't have the impervious, you don't have the ground, impervious ground issues, you don't have the environmental issues, you don't have the pedestrian issues, you don't have any of these issues that we're discussing tonight if they just use their current parking footprint. The only issue is, that I heard personally, was they don't want people who are going to the tiki bar to walk through the hotel lobby. That's part of having a hotel. I'm sorry. Move the pool to the front. Move the tiki bar to the front. It's the right idea. It's needed. I agree with that. Absolutely wrong place in my mind.
Yeah, and hotels are semi-public spaces. You know, they're kind of like a shopping mall that you expect traffic through it. I mean, I completely agree that the existing parking would be a much more suitable location for all the things you've mentioned. And again, it's like putting a parking lot in front of, but it's not my business, so like.
And maybe it would help if they had like a drawing of it for people to visually see the look of it. I mean, I think also having a two-story, then you could be blocking the view of their hotel.
Yeah.
I mean, they do a lot for the city. They do allow whoever wants to stay on their grounds during 4th of July and all kinds of events. So maybe it's really a visualization that if we saw it, we would have a better idea of, oh, it doesn't look as bad, or, ooh, it takes away. I think that's the hard part, not.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing is, aside from a couple of things I mentioned about, the comprehensive plan does call for minimizing and discouraging increasing impervious surface area, but a few other things, but I'm not sure that any of them are hard and fast rules that, I mean, a lot of this is just preferences.
Yeah,
like, I'm not sure that we have a reason we can deny it.
As Ms. Strickland said, didn't you say it's an allowable use there
Yeah.
to put that in? So, I mean, if it's an allowable use, how can you, like you're saying, we may not like it, but if it's an allowable use and there's a way we can see what it looks like and it helps out, them as well, it benefits them and the city.
Allowable doesn't disable this board's discretion. I mean, it may be allowable, but this board has the power to say no, that it's the right idea, the wrong place.
Right, but we have to have a justification for that.
Did the city approve or approve with conditions? Did the city approve or approve with conditions?
The staff is recommending approval with conditions.
What are those conditions again?
They're fairly lengthy.
Okay.
They're in your staff
They are, okay.
report, at the end of the staff report.
Heather, do you have any comments?
It would just be echoing a lot of what's already been said. I kind of feel the same way. I think that ultimately, if it's an allowable use, I'm not sure, and we're making recommendations, of course, to the commission. I was just trying to think if there was a way to possibly, I like the suggestion of seeing what it might look like. If there's a way to do a rendering of the site, that I think would be helpful, just envisioning. And I was thinking about the pedestrian access and the walkway, and whether there might be a situation where there's actually a light, or there may want to be like a single arm gate just for, I'm just thinking about tiki bars too.
For safety.
Right, and not that we're certainly condoning drinking and driving, but that is likely going to be the case coming out of a tiki bar with pedestrians there. So I'm just, from a public safety standpoint, I was sort of envisioning maybe there is some kind of single arm drop down with a pedestrian cross button or something there that at least keeps the bar down so that if someone's trying to drive,
Yeah,
that they, because it can be heavy traffic depending on what's going on, with
Yeah.
traffic, I mean. So that was my biggest concern is actually, yes, that's a space where a lot of people walk. So I think that might be helpful. Maybe if the spa would be willing to provide a rendering of what that egress or ingress would look like, and possibly just like a 3-dimensional or 4-dimensional rendering. If that's doable, that would be, I think, helpful for all involved, just to maybe be able to comment to, and also working with the spa in terms of how that might be optimized as well.
I think the safety concern would fall under the comprehensive plan and the Vision Zero, for requiring an enhanced safety around there. I was also going to suggest that we add something about, dealing with the loss of a parking space there, that be part of the conditions on here, that, we figure out a way to deal with that. Because that is it is quite often I've gone down there and it is full with people. So I do agree that we probably with some restriping could get it in there, but I think we should make that part of the recommendations to the council.
Recall that the applicant says that a lot of the patrons of the Tiki Bar are people that are already parking there. So if they open up 68 spaces, those people aren't parking there anymore.
Right,
Now they're
but
parking on
not
the
with
spa,
trailers.
And now you've opened up more space.
Yeah, you won't be taking a trailer into this parking lot, though. These
Well,
are
that's true.
these are
That's
trailer
true.
spots that are being
Right.
lost, not the regular
But
spots.
some of those people are going in there too. So I don't think we can put a whole lot of weight on the loss of a single trailer spot. If they're gonna open up a whole bunch of regular parking for us.
Well, but it's different. It's it's a specialized parking spot. It's not you're not losing just a parking spot. You're losing a parking spot for a vehicle with a trailer. And there's, I think 9 of them there, 8 or 9. So you're losing a significant percentage of it.
So if you privilege one boat guy at the expense of 68 non-boat guys, I'm not sure.
I'm not privileging it. I'm just saying that
Trade-off.
we need to come up with a plan for how we're going to address the loss of it.
And it's a
Should be
marina.
part of this.
I mean, it's a marina, so
Yeah.
that's the point
That is the
there,
primary
that
use of it.
Is boat access.
I would say the
Yeah.
primary use is a spa, right? I mean, there is a marina, but there's a gigantic use going on.
Spa
right
has a
next
front
to it.
entrance on Bay Shore.
Yeah, that's
This is
not.
the back door of the spa.
That's not,
Right.
people aren't, the spa patrons aren't going back there right now. Now you're adding spa patron traffic to an already impacted road. That's a dead end.
Right.
We got a pier, we got a marina, and we got a boat rental place out there. That's not even adding to the people who are going to the park, to the sail place to go picnicking or walking that nature trail. Now you're adding 68 cars going in there for a tiki bar.
Well,
And
they're
gonna
not
be
all, I
hold
mean.
on. They're gonna be pulling out of there at some point too, into all that traffic.
Right.
That's why I say, this is a really good idea, really wrong spot.
Well,
I could see it if they put it in the front of their building where they already have an existing parking lot and add a second layer to their current existing parking spot.
No.
That makes sense.
I don't like that idea.
well, I think we should probably
Still up to
stick
the
with
board.
the protocol.
We'll let you do
Yeah.
a rebuttal after we
But
finish
I
our
would
discussion.
echo Ms. Schaaf's point that we don't want a 2-story monstrosity in the front of the
No
Safety
way.
Harbor Spa. And if we want to start talking about like impermeable surfaces and environmental impact, it's going to be far worse if they put up a big 2-story parking lot.
Same footprint. It's not going to increase the impervious surface area or the environmental problems of it.
Because it's already
Because you're using
covered.
something that's already
It's gonna
paved.
take away
It's
the
already
look of
paved.
the frontage
we'll-
of
Yeah,
the
it's
spa.
gonna
though.
look
Something
like
you
a
wanna see in
downtown.
I really agree, it's probably more expensive, and given the way most people design parking garages, probably not attractive. I mean, there are other locations on there, there's the north end where there's some sort of junkyard up there that, there's a big open area in there too. It's not as convenient to the Tiki Bar. But again, I don't know that we have and again, we're just making a recommendation to the commission. It's not binding on
Right.
them. They can choose to ignore it or take it on. We probably want to make reasonable recommendations to them.
I am finding it difficult to make a good recommendation because we don't have all the facts. That's the difficult part here, okay? We don't have all, like Swift Mud, we don't have traffic studies, we don't know, what the impact is gonna be on leisure services
It still
or the
has to meet
parking
all
and different
those
events. We're not really sure yet. No agreements have come. Even the applicant is not quite sure of what the agreement is. So it's difficult for me at this point to understand what a recommendation would be, given that we don't have all the facts. But I do want the applicant to make a rebuttal.
Susan, I have a question too before that no one's asked. What is
Okay.
the maximum seated occupancy that the Tiki Bar can hold right now?
Parthenon Grill Tiki Bar requires 4 spaces for that, but I don't have a number of seats.
Like I've myself been to the Tiki Bar. I believe it's a U-shaped bar. Maybe 25 chairs there? Is that correct? Or what's the max occupancy that can?
About 20, 21.
Okay.
But it's not that only.
Okay, but there are tables as well throughout to eat in. Okay. Do you have a number? I assume the city has a max occupancy.
At one time, we may have 50 or 60 people.
Okay.
Did we find out
And that doesn't happen every day, obviously.
did we find out what the max impervious surface ratio is?
The code does not list a maximum impervious surface ratio for a destination resort.
There's no requirement. So there's not only no requirement, but this impervious surface ratio is only 0.588%. Not percent, but,
Yeah.
so it's my feeling that we don't have anything really that they're not meeting the requirements of. So there's no impervious surface ratio requirement. It's their property, they're trying to make the best use of it. My concern is just the location of the entry, the fact that it's so close to the crosswalk. And I do second Heather's idea that there could be an arm,
Something that would indicate someone going in and out, to give a heads up to the pedestrians, but.
You get a lot of people not paying attention.
Yeah, and just curious if there's any thought to maybe swapping the location of their proposed retention and the entry point, just to give it a little separation from the crosswalk.
Are you waiting for an answer from me or us?
I just want to put it on the table that maybe that's a condition, the two ideas swapping and.
Well, we could ask too if that's something that, I guess the question was, had it been considered to where the retention pond is versus where the egress for the parking lot is proposed to be? Could that be flip-flopped so that the crosswalk is not right next to where people are driving?
Before we came to that conclusion, we must have made 100 studies. And that because of the proximity to the existing retention and the discharge of that to the bay.
Okay.
That is the reason.
For it being there.
Yes, it could have. And with regards to the 30 by 50, that's your property, was the last thing I agreed to with the city to give them. And it was originally intended for taking some of those trailers of veterans and put them there. 50 by 30 deep, 5 trailers, that was the intent. With regards, sir, to the parking locating there, perhaps you don't know, but I'll tell you right now, that broad walk that you step and you walk down to the park is my property. You walk on my property for the last 3 years. Why? Because I gave you that right. On that piece of property, we can park 20 cars, parallel. Instead, we agreed to give this to the city and then the city spent the money. Additionally, I agreed on that meeting that we will extend that easement for another 3 years. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you have been using my property. And frankly, I never accepted or heard a thank you. And here we are. The planning and zoning, a body that recommends, recommendatory to the city council. I heard that, well, the grass and so forth. The northernmost piece of property that is now under construction for the townhomes that you agreed and approved. Have you forgotten that? Obviously, if that was not the case, and the property was still there, we would be using that, and I would not be spending $500,000 to do that project. As far as not paving the whole area with asphalt, as you mentioned, and I agree. In the parking which we developed in the main parking lot, we did that. And what do you have? Mud. And you have the same thing, mud, in the parking you created on the northern part. And they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars for that. It's not maintainable. What can you do? I don't know. You find something that can do it? I don't know. Any other questions that I can answer?
So, I mean, I think on that point, like, I didn't realize that the current lot was paved at all. It looks like mud when you drive by there. It looks like people are parking in grass. So if you were gonna pop up a two-story parking
Do you have
deck
any further
there-
questions for the applicant?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. We don't have any further
If
questions.
you were gonna pop up a
Can
two-story.
we just wait on the rebuttal, because I just want to ask a question from our town engineer, okay? Go ahead, you finish your thought.
Yeah, if you're gonna pop up a two-story parking lot, you're gonna pave that. They can't do that on mud, I'm certain. We could ask the engineer that. But you're talking about more asphalt than they're talking about now.
Yeah, you'd probably do it on piles. You wouldn't likely just sit it on the ground. It would be engineered, and you'd have to do soil studies and make sure it can support the weight and all that sort of thing.
All kinds of disruptive stuff.
There are two parking areas, and I believe the southern one is paved, and then you get into the area that, as you mentioned, is now becoming the townhomes up there. That area was unpaved up there, and I think the other one they're referring to, the city, is with the, can't remember, the bricks with the openings in them.
Yeah.
And that's actually not what I was talking about with a cool surface. I mean, there are cool surfaces you can do with asphalt. Concrete is also a much better rejector of heat. But again, as I said, I think this is an allowable use. It does seem that they've gone through they have looked at switching the storm retention, and yeah, the other one would put it closer to the bay. And, the soil might not be suitable there. I don't know without engineering that. Definitely an issue with going through the loading area. You don't want people doing that, and yeah, you don't want people driving through the property on a regular basis either. We don't have to like it, but it is an allowable use under our code. As I said, I think we can put a couple more recommendations on there.
Hear from the
Oh,
city engineer,
yeah.
okay? Could we have City engineer, come up. Thank you so much. Can you state your name and your position?
Michelle Giuliani, Engineering Director, City of Safety Harbor.
Great. Michelle, we really would like your input on this. We'd like to find out your expertise as to whether this is an appropriate use of the property in terms of whether it's going to be flooding, too much flooding in that area, or that whole street. I mean, can you tell us about this flooding on that street? It's gone all the way up to North Bay Shore. Is there something been done recently to minimize that, or how are we going to handle that?
The flooding you mentioned is during major storm events like hurricanes.
Yes.
High tides like the king tide.
Yes.
And we've seen it comes all the way into our waterfront park.
Right.
So the stormwater pond was designed, theoretically works for water quality, water quantity, per the Water Management District and Pinellas County stormwater criteria. So if you recall, they had to do a stormwater pond for the townhomes. That works. And they also have storm chambers because it's a bigger area. So they also have a retention pond, existing retention pond to the north that takes on all of the spa area. So the spa is broken up into many basins. That retention pond to the north handles the basin on the north side. This retention pond will handle this, how many ever acres it was, I have to look.
It's 0.8 acres.
Yeah, 0.8, and the pond is 3,000 square feet. So I saw a lot of renditions from the engineer of record who was here, who tried to put the pond along the south side, and they even considered, I think, chambers, but they can't because of the groundwater, the seasonal high water table. So this pond works. It doesn't, so when you say does it retain, attenuation means it will not, the cubic feet per second of water, the stormwater will not release more than what was in preconditions. So this storm pond is holding that. It's releasing it as it was in preconditions. They also tried, I think he tried, did you try storm text?
We didn't have the room for the storm.
They didn't have the room. So the pond, many people don't like a pond because it takes away from area that they could use for retail or commercial or whatever. So theoretically the pond works. I saw the calculations. I want to see the Water Management District permit, and then we'll know it's approved by them. So.
Right, because, I mean, can you address the flooding down in the Veterans Memorial Lane? That's the concern here.
The
That where
flooding
it
on
was,
veterans happens.
how will that affect that parking lot and vice versa?
It shouldn't flood that parking lot. It's the veterans that floods. Our park floods with the high tides and the storm events because it's such a intense storm, and even when it's high tide. So I don't think their parking lot will flood. They don't have flooding in the, I don't think they do, in your area of the north of that parking lot where you have your yeah, they have a retention pond for that area, but do you have flooding there? So I don't believe their parking area and their tiki bar and that area of the loading area floods. It's Veterans Lane that floods with the high tides and the storms in our own park. Waterfront Park gets water.
But there has been flooding all the way up to North Bay Shore, or South Bay Shore on occasion.
Well, because South Bay Shore is on the bay as well, and it's tidally influenced. So if the tide comes in, you're gonna have flooding.
And that will affect that parking area if that happens?
shouldn't.
No?
We're gonna get flooding in our own park. We have a swale that we've designed through our park for permitting. We have our own retention pond at the north side of the park that's never held water.
Okay.
I live in the city, I go there, there's no water being held in our own park retention pond. So, per his design and his calculations, it theoretically works. I want to see the permit.
Swift Mud has more stringent requirements?
Swift Mud's requirements are the 25-year, 24-hour storm event that you mentioned.
Okay, yes.
Because he's not discharging the storm into the bay, he's got to attenuate because he's tying into a storm system. Water quality, he's handling water quality with the drawdown, and he's handling retention. And Don can speak up, it's his design, but as
Okay,
far as
thanks.
we're concerned, I don't have a problem with the stormwater.
Okay. If you want to elaborate, that would be great, and then we can,
And like vote and, I mean, we'd be here all night if we keep going like at the rate we're doing it.
Do you want to hear from the engineer?
if you'd like to elaborate, it's up to him.
No, I, just wanted to say that, we followed all the requirements from SwiftMud.
Okay.
And of course, that pond, you get to the impervious, that's a treatment pond, which is treating, actually it's almost twice the treatment required, just because we wanted to have the outlet. Now that outlet went directly into the bay. And so the SwiftMud requirement, and speaking about the SwiftMud, the permit, we have submitted, and we finally answered all their questions. And we finally had the advertisement, so we're gonna get the permit any day, and we answered their questions.
Okay.
Getting back to the requirement for SwiftMud, it's a 25-year storm. We've taken care of the treatment because of all the impervious, but yet since it's going into the bay, we really do not have to attenuate according to the rules. So, and that's true of all the properties all along, the condominiums, Cardinal did, all along Bay Road. None of those calculations attenuated because they're going into a tidal body. And the tidal body is a marginal, it's not impaired because it's not on the formal list. So, but the thing of it is for the specific impervious, we are, we have followed the SwiftMud rules, and we've followed the other rules that we have encountered.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. It's good. Okay, we can have the rebuttal now.
Thanks, Howard. Slomka again for the applicant. Happy to answer any questions. I want to address two concerns that have come up from Mr. Young and Mr. Hicks, specifically about the location of this. The alternate locations, they're already parking. We have 345 parking spaces, and they're already there. I've been in meetings with the city, I think as far back as 15 years ago, certainly 10 years ago, and 5 years ago, discussing the possibility of adding a parking garage. These were very, very difficult discussions, and it's never going to happen. I don't think this board will ever approve stacked parking there. So I would hate to see this board say, well, you can't do this one because you should stack it, because when we come back to stack it, that's something that I think would impact the city far worse than this, which is hidden behind our hotel, and it's adjacent to a road that's already paved. So I wanted to address that, and also twice, Mr. Young, you referred to our junkyard. Unfortunately, we do have a 200-room hotel. We're the second largest employer in the city, and this type of property does require maintenance and maintenance areas. I think it's optimally located there. It's the farthest from the pin corner of the city as we could possibly put it. We're not going to put it on the water. You know, it's in the extreme north part, and what's currently happening there now, we're building another applicant, but related to us, is putting in another a townhome retention pond, which requires, per the city's requirements, shielding and fencing and landscaping, which will help obscure even more what you've referred to as a junkyard. I hate the word. I understand why you're using it. But that is also the location of where we store and treat the spring water. Almost impossible to move that. So
That's the big tank there?
right.
Yeah.
That's the spring water. That's what. Look behind you. Home of the mineral springs. That's where the water goes. And because of the elevation, that's where it's got to go. So we do our best to, and I think now we're improving the shielding of that area. But with regard to putting these spaces elsewhere, I don't think we own any more land they could go. We have 345 spaces. sort of shoehorned in the triangle. I don't think we can fit 346. So here we're adding 63 spaces, which is more than were lost, those weren't paved spaces anyway. I think we're making our product better, not worse, and I think we're making the city better. I can't think of any place else we could put it, Mr. Hicks. And we've been exploring that particular issue with the city, with your predecessors, with the prior mayors, plural. And that parking deck is never coming. Yeah,
No.
right. We've discussed sharing it with the city and yeah.
No. We will be simply leading to something that may happen. Parking garage, yes, it may very well happen with the participation of the city. I don't know, have you been at some of the meetings of the commission? Have you heard anything? I mean, the whole city is up in arms. Where is the parking? And you are telling me today that, I'm sorry, the parking next to the veterans is unsightly. For God's sake, save me. You yourselves approved the townhomes. And you know where that junkyard is becoming? The retention pond, which means it's going, in fact, right now, working on the retention pond. To go further, the tank, the holding tank of that Holy Spirit water, hopefully because of the developments in things that hold or treat water may disappear completely. So there are things that are going to benefit slightly the entire property. The parking, the surface parking on the triangular piece of property potentially may become a 600+ parking garage. And we would have the right to do that. Any questions? Anybody?
Thank you very much.
Please, thank you.
Okay. Are you finished with your rebuttal? You good?
Any remaining questions?
Okay.
Sorry,
Oh, wait.
You're good.
I just want to point out again that we mentioned it being unsightly. This is, in the landscape plan, it's heavily landscaped. They're adding a lot of trees. They're going to make it look nice. I don't see a problem with it.
Just one thing before we go discuss this. I just want to do rebuttal from the audience. Is there anybody who wanted to talk about anything that was said? Are we all set? Okay. Then if that's the case, then we're going to announce that it's closed to the public. And we're bringing it up to the board once again. And please continue.
That's all I wanted to say.
Okay.
No, I just was gonna say, let's keep on track and try to get this, like, resolved, because it's like we're all spinning in circles. All they want to do is they're requesting for modification for the parking, so, I mean, if we want to do additional conditions, you know, to make it appease everyone, and then, and, I mean, we're not talking about the water retention ponds right now. That has nothing to do, I mean, we're talking about the,
Yeah,
We're talking about it all.
I just have two comments. I had two, I only got one right now. Okay, I know where. Yeah, so, I mean, part of our job is to look at these things that come in front of us and poke and prod them and look at them from how the people in the city are going to, what they're going to ask about. So it's nothing personal. It is, we are supposed to tear these apart and try to make sure that all options have been considered. so that we can make a recommendation to the commission and say that, yes, we recommend this because the applicant has done all the work they need to do and made sure this is the right thing, or that we don't recommend this because they clearly, took a shortcut and didn't bother. I think in this case, they've looked at all the different options there. And again, it's nothing personal. That's our job, is to represent the residents of the city in these. And the other thing is, these recommendations are voiced to the commission. So even though the applicant may not be responsible for sorting out the loss of a parking space for a trailer, I think it's important that we express that to the commission, that this is something that needs to be considered as part of this. And they may not make it part of the approval or denial, or whatever decision they come to, but they'll know about it, that is a concern that they need to consider, so.
And I also want to say, I want to thank you to both engineers for explaining your positions, because we're not engineers here, okay? And that's why we asked for your expertise. And you cleared up a lot of questions that I personally had about flooding, et cetera, and the adequacy of the stormwater, and you've assured me that it is adequate. I also want to say that for safety issues for the residents of downtown, we want to make sure that access to and from our waterfront park is safe for the residents. That's a reasonable consideration to have. So I would make sure that in our recommendation that we put something in there that says that we want to provide some safety measures so that there isn't any problem with the ingress and egress of the parking lot, like the safety bar, et cetera. Also, I think that we also have to make sure that both sides understand when the parking lot can be used and when it cannot. Okay, that's very important, and that should be in there. So that, I think the leisure services should be a great part of this, because they're the ones that put down the events downtown and the waterfront area, and make sure that it benefits the community. We know and it is your property, and you should benefit from your ownership, but it's also part of a public space there, recreational space. So we want to make sure it benefits the public of Safety Harbor as well. So both sides are satisfied with the outcome. So in that respect, I'm going to call for a motion. Anybody want to make a motion?
I motion to recommend approval with the condition of adding a safety bar to the egress.
Ingress and egress, okay.
The city's conditions as well.
Yeah, adding,
Yes.
yes,
Incorporating the
including
city's
with
conditions.
And to add, make sure that the leisure division, what is it called?
Leisure services.
Thank you, is in agreement with the respect for the use of that area down there, okay? Because that was omitted in those.
I'm not sure about the verbiage of that, because
Yeah,
I
if
think
you
that
could
the
just
use of the
clean that up,
parking
Carol.
lot should be at their discretion. I think it could be published that there is an event going to take place, but use at your own risk.
We want to make sure they're on board, that's the whole idea, and that both parties are in agreement that this is going to happen. Okay, if we agree to this is what has to happen, so it benefits you, but it benefits the citizens or the residents of Safety Harbor as well.
I would,
I think that part's close.
I would like to add that the city, or at least we recommend to the commission, that a separate recreational vehicle and
We're in the middle of
trailer
a motion.
parking
I'm
is
sorry.
looked at, being added elsewhere.
Agreed.
Okay, do we have that motion? Are we satisfied with that motion?
I was going to suggest that the wording could be recommend that the city commission consider the operational impacts on the parking lot with the closure of Veterans Memorial Lane, working with leisure services.
Yes, yeah, make sure that's in there, because they are impacted greatly when they're trying to put on their events, et cetera. So we just want to make sure that both the residents and the owners are satisfied with the end results. Okay?
And
Okay, go ahead.
Well, we also I'd like something on there about that the city addressed the loss of a trailer parking at the
Yeah,
marina.
she had the
So,
term.
yeah, that wasn't there when she read back the.
Louder, please. Didn't hear you loud.
Louder.
Just addressing the loss of it, that the city commission addressed the loss of a trailer parking spot on Veterans.
Really? I don't believe this.
Okay, no, please. Okay, have we finished making the motion?
I'll second it, yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Hold on,
What?
hold on.
Just for a clear record,
Yeah,
I'm gonna ask that Ms. Strickland repeat what has been memorialized, just so that we have a clear and concise record of what's being voted on.
So what I heard is approve with the conditions in the staff report, with the additional conditions that a safety bar or gate be added
Push to exit type of thing.
added to the parking lot, which works in conjunction with the condition 6, the drawing details and signage, pavement markings for pedestrian safety. The second was that the city commission consider the operational impacts of the periodic closures of Veterans Memorial Lane, and work with Leisure Services to address those.
Yes.
And then finally recommend that the city commission address the loss of the trailer parking space.
Yes.
Okay, and you made that motion? We have a second?
Yep.
You want to do a roll call?
You seconded.
Yeah, she seconded.
Yeah, I second it.
Heather
Yeah.
seconded.
Okay, roll call. Liz?
Ally Shaw,
I approve.
Miguel Hicks,
Aye.
Heather Norton,
Aye.
Susan Case,
Aye.
Colin Young,
Aye.
Christina Novus,
Aye.
Caroline Ellison.
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good night.
Okay, motion to adjourn at 8:25
Staff
PM.
comments?
Oh, Carol,
She has another
Carol, did you have anything before we adjourn?
nothing
Okay,
further.
thank you.
Good night.